Hello, everyone, and welcome to this full moon forecast for October 9th. We have a full moon in Sidereal Pisces, so that is tropical Aries. Just in case you're just joining me on this platform, I use the Sidereal zodiac, the fixed stars beyond the zodiac. So there is a difference between the tropical and the fixed stars of about 24 degrees. I use 24 degrees at this point. And so this is how we experience the ages, the precession of the equinoxes. So while the sun is seen to move into Aries during the equinox, the spring equinox for the northern hemisphere, that is just a seasonal consideration. Of course, that's different for the southern hemisphere, right? So that's one way of looking at the zodiac. The other way of looking at the zodiac is to look beyond that, the relationship between the earth and the sun, look beyond into the stars, into the fixed stars, sidereal, that's what that means. And to look at the lunar mansions and the 27 sections of the zodiac, not just the 12 sun signs. And so these are the lunar mansions or nakshatras in Indian astrology. So this full moon is in Sidereal Pisces at the end of the zodiac and at the very last lunar mansion in Revati. Revati is the lunar mansion for this full moon. So the symbolism of Revati is a fish. And so, of course, this precession of the equinoxes is an important consideration because over 2,000 years ago, the sun, the equinox, precessed into Pisces, into the sign of the fish. So it's not a coincidence that the Christ figure came along and all of that symbolism around the fish and all of that, and the shepherd and all of that is symbolic of this lunar mansion because it's ruled by, in Vedic myth, the deity Pushan. And Pushan is the shepherd. So it's all about shepherding souls from one stage of life to the next. And it's like there's obviously a certain care and protection that the Christ figure and, the shepherder represents. And there's a stage of our journey where we're willing to kind of give over our whatever to someone else, our will, you might say. But really it's about surrender. And surrender is not a choice we make. It's not a conscious choice. You don't decide to surrender. We are usually dragged there kicking and screaming internally. And so eventually though, we come around and we realize that actually, we just surrender, we let go. Letting go isn't giving up though. Letting go is actually realizing that when we let go and simply be, we can be more. When we let go, we can be more. When we don't let go, when we hold on, we try to make something a certain way and manage it to the point where we actually pin it down. That's the opposite side of the zodiac. That's Virgo, where we have the sun, we have Venus and Mercury all together now in Virgo. So we're obviously managing a lot of details right now as well and trying to get everything right and everything to work efficiently. And, we could easily get bogged down in that. So this full moon is about the opposite, is about letting go for a while, is surrendering. And by surrendering, we can let things be and again, be more. We could reach some sort of realization. We can have an experience of some expanded sense of self. We could also practically realize that something could be some other way. We've been pinning our hopes on it to be this way or planning it this way. And now we realize by letting it be that it actually could be this way. This is a possibility. This is a potential here. Because this full moon in Pisces, in Revati, is just after meeting Jupiter. So this will be, I imagine, if you have a clear night, will be a very nice thing to see in the night sky. Because Jupiter is very close to us at this time. And it's said to be closer than it has been for many, many years. And it will be for many years. So it's in the middle stage of the retrograde cycle. In other words, it's opposite the sun for this full moon, conjoined the moon, the full moon. So that could be a really delightful sight in the night sky. But it's not just something to look at externally because this is symbolic of something to connect with internally. And especially because Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces, very powerful, but very internalized. So it's about, in other words, connecting to something deep within ourselves that gives our life meaning and purpose, that allows us to surrender to some higher power, whatever you want to call it. Now, the saying, let go and let God would apply to this and applies to the sign Pisces anyway, but this full moon in Pisces for sure. But even if you don't believe in God, if you just believe in the universe, whatever word you want to replace with God, it's about letting go and letting God, letting go and letting the universe, the divine, whatever. And it's not a giving up, like I said, it's a letting go and allowing actually it to be more, for you to be more. So there's a great potential, in other words, for this full moon to be more through the process of surrendering. And surrendering all just those everyday details, maybe just, getting bogged down in all the red tape, which actually can confine things too much. So this is always the potential for a full moon in Pisces, but this time even more so. I think there's a great potential and a need here now, because when I talk about what's coming up in the next forecast for the next moon phase, the next new moon is an eclipse, and the one after that is a total lunar eclipse. So we're going into a period of great change and instability and uncertainty. And if we cannot, at these stages of a full moon in Pisces conjunct Jupiter, if we cannot take advantage of that and recharge and reboot and completely surrender, then when are we going to? We're not going to be able to. This is an opportune time to really surrender and to recharge. Now, it's just more possible when this occurs in Pisces, unlike the other two water signs, Cancer and Scorpio. At the end of Pisces, we're more willing to do that. At the end of Cancer, where we see the lunar mansion Ashlesha, ruled by the Sarpas, you can even listen to the sound of the word Ashlesha. It sounds very like snake-like. That's where we have our attachments, where we develop attachments. And we do need healthy attachments, but we can obviously over-attach to something or someone in Cancer. And then Ashlesha, which literally means, the word means clinging. We can get very clingy in Cancer, right? At the end of Scorpio, where we have the lunar mansion Jeshta, another S sounding, Jeshta, we can get just as attached, but this time to the world, of worldly things, of material things. And we find it hard to let go of that into the spiritual realms, which is what the end of Scorpio is all about. So that's very tricky. That's even trickier than our emotional attachments in Cancer. In Pisces, there aren't really those complexities. In Pisces, we're at the stage where we've gone through it all and now we're just really ready to let go. So there isn't that kind of clinginess. And also, again, there's some higher power that's coming in, and it's kind of like a sort of divine intervention in a way. And that kind of, again, that Christ figure is only one symbol of how we go through this process, how we give over, surrender to something that is higher than us, or within us, and especially within us when we think about that from the Jupiter retrograde perspective, that it's not just about giving over our power. That's not what I'm saying. It's about actually connecting in to our power, our true source of power within. And that's going to be something to hold on to in the coming weeks. That is going to be so important, because after this full moon, this culmination phase, this completion phase, this surrender, the 2 weeks after this is the waning cycle leading to a new moon in Libra on October 25th. And I'll do another recording on that, but I'll just highlight it now because we are heading into a period of great change in our lives and on this planet. So it's a new moon, that's one thing, but it's the sun in Libra in its fall, eclipsed by the moon. So it's not just an eclipsed sun, it's a debilitated eclipsed sun. So there's a lot of uncertainty that is coming up because of all the changes that are about to happen. And then 2 weeks after that, we have the next full moon. So a month after this full moon, we have the full moon of November 8th, which is a total lunar eclipse, conjunct the North Node Rahu and Uranus. So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of change that's happening over the next while. There is a lot of change and uncertainty happening, and that's because the lunar nodes have already activated the eclipse. Even though the eclipse doesn't happen until November 8th, Rahu, the North Node, has already moved over the eclipse degree, the 21 degree mark of Aries. And since actually the middle of August, Rahu and Ketu in the signs Aries and Libra are in the divisions of their opposite. So Rahu in Aries is in the division of Libra. Ketu, the South Node in Libra, is in the division of Aries. So they're in each other's signs and creating this sort of conundrum in a way and confusion as to how to get out of this. And this full moon now could lead to more confusion. That's the other side of Jupiter and Pisces, is that there can be a lot of confusion. Moon meets with Neptune first and then Jupiter and then moves to the end of Pisces for the full moon itself. So we could get very confused. And when you think about confusion, when you think about how you grapple with so many things internally for a while, that's actually a process. That's the necessary steps towards that surrender. So again, you don't choose to surrender. You're usually brought kicking and screaming to that point of surrender, like thrashing about with all of these different pros and cons and trying to figure everything out. So this is why this full moon, I think, is so important in being able to let go and recharge and reboot. And then leading up into this next month with all of these changes with the eclipses, that we have recharged that sense of self and that connection to that pure potential, and leave ourselves open to more possibility than we ever thought imaginable even. And then when the changes do come about, we are more able to deal with them because we have that sense of an expanded self. So it's, if we're trying to cling on right now, if we're trying to manage or overmanage or micromanage things right now, if we're trying to keep things as they always were, we are going to have a hard time with this next few weeks. But if on the other hand, we allow things to be and to be more, we have more of a sense of things, first of all, being exactly as they're meant to be. You know, everything is happening perfectly. But also when they do change, we are more able to go with the flow and the changes that are happening and make the most of them. And to realize actually that they need to happen, that it's not just happening, as in nothing happens, it is. So this is a time to simply be. This full moon is a time to take time out to simply be and to let everything be and to allow things to be their full potential. I hope you enjoyed this full moon. As always, I wish you the very best, and until next time.